following is a presentation of HBO Sports.
Fighter of the Year, 140-pound supremacy, soaring popularity. Ricky Hatton reaped those rewards from his 2005 destruction of Costa Zoo.
The hitman really has arrived in the big time.
To capitalize on his breakthrough performance, Hatton crossed the Atlantic to face then welterweight titleist Luis Castillo.
Big uppercut by Hatton. Big left hand by Castillo.
His uneven title-winning effort convinced the Manchester star to return to the comforts of the 140-pound division. But the hitman's uninspiring victory against Juan Urango raised more questions.
Don't throw it away. You can lose this now.
What happened to the vicious whirlwind who embarrassed Costa Zoo? From sparring partner for Julio Cesar Chavez to two-time lightweight champion, Jose Luis Castillo's relentless pressure has made him one of boxing's definitive warriors.
Hard right hand by Castillo. Another big round for the champion.
Twice in 2002, he came up short against Pretty Boy Floyd, but gave the current pound-for-pound king all he could handle.
Who will the judges choose in this rousing battle?
And he etched his name into boxing lore in losing the epic first encounter with Diego Corrales. Tonight, Castillo seeks the career-defining win which has eluded him in his 17 years as a pro. For Hatton, it's an attempt to reclaim the aura of his biggest triumph. It's the top 240-pounders, Hatton versus Castillo, next.
Championship Boxing is back. Coming to you live from the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, we bring you a much-anticipated matchup between the two most highly regarded fighters in the 140-pound weight class, when the pride of Manchester, England, Ricky Hatton, takes on two-time former lightweight champion Jose Luis Castillo. Castillo, from the heat of Sonora province in Mexico, a professional more than half his life, tonight looks for the biggest win of his career against the pride of Manchester, England's unbeaten Ricky Hatton, who's won all 42 of his professional fights and looks for a hallmark win over Castillo to continue to elevate his career. A big crowd in the Thomas & Mack Center, and perhaps surprisingly to many, more than half of them rooting for the English fighter Ricky Hatton. Once again, a large number of fans have made the pilgrimage across the Atlantic to support Hatton in his American campaign, which tonight enters its third fight. He says he's a frustrated fighter after the first two and wants to put on a great show in this fight, which now becomes the third in succession to earn its stripes and try to present itself as perhaps the fight of the year in boxing. First, it was Edison Miranda and Kelly Pavlik, the middleweights in Memphis, who fought 7 furious rounds before Pavlik knocked Miranda out. That was the leader in the clubhouse until 2 weeks ago when Miguel Cotto's 11th round destruction of Zab Judah in Madison Square Garden before the largest crowd ever to see a fight in the Garden instantly became the fight of the year to this moment. Here is yet another fight which could eclipse its predecessors and move to the top of the list. Working with me tonight, HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman. And Max, you look for evidence of why we might see something special. Ricky Hatton, in talking up to this fight, talks at least as much about how high quality an event he wants to be in as polishing his own credentials and his resume.
Yeah, think of Ricky Hatton as the anti-Floyd Mayweather, a humble, blue-collar kind of a brawler whose stated priority is to give the fans value for the money. Pavlik Miranda and Cotto Judah were indeed good fights, but they fell short of era-defining classic. If Ricky Hatton does what he says he's going to do tonight and stands in front of Jose Luis Castillo, we'll have an era-defining classic on our hands.
Although Hatton's ambition perhaps presents a troubling contradiction for him. Because as we turn to the legendary trainer and manager, world championship boxing expert, Emmanuel Stewart, Manny, it's worth noting, those people who favor Hatton to win the fight do so partially because they think he's the better boxer and might be better able to avoid punishment than Castillo. Now he comes along and says, I want to be in one of those great fights. Which is it going to be?
Well, I think Ricky Hatton is going to come in with intentions of pushing Castillo back. That's what he said. He feels Castillo cannot fight when he makes him back up. But in doing that, it's going to end up becoming a slugfest. Everybody feels that Hatton has a slight advantage primarily because he has hand speed and foot speed, which Castillo doesn't have. But I think the fact that both guys are desperate trying to prove something, even though he won the last two fights here in the United States, he was not impressive, I think, because he won the decision because he was busier than the two fighters. He out-hustled him. Even though Collazo had him hurt, Collazo didn't fight enough. The same thing as last fight with Urango. He looked tired, but they didn't fight enough. Castillo's going to fight. It's going to be a busy fight tonight, and he's going to have to fight.
And regardless of what happened to Hatton in his first two appearances here in the United States, British fans will never forget what he did in May 2005 with his upset triumph over Costa Zoo, voted by British writers the greatest victory ever by a British fighter. It's one of the biggest reasons why Hatton continues to enjoy a swelling tide of British fan support, no matter how far his fans have to travel to see his fights.
Meet Ian Hart, 42-year-old boxing fanatic from Worthing, England, who's about to lead a group of 21 friends on a 6,500-mile journey for one special purpose.
Going to see Ricky Hatton. I think the Thompson Mack Centre takes 19,000 people. I think you've got 11,000 tickets sold in this country, which tells you how good Hatton is. It's all an experience, isn't it? It's the whole Vegas thing. Have a drink, have a little bit of a gamble, perhaps go and see Wayne Newton. Maybe not.
Ian is among an unprecedented number of British diehards traveling halfway around the world to watch a boxer who's a rare combination of revered idol and man of the people.
I think the fans see me as one of them. They see me as just like the man in the crowd. I mean, it's fantastic for any fighter, you know, to top the bill in the home country. But for the British fighter to come all the way over to the capital of boxing, you know, topping the bill. It's not just a fight, it's an occasion, it's a celebration.
I never thought I'd end up on the same network as The Sopranos. Bit of a dream come true, really, isn't it? Here he is, give him a toot. It's this corner bungalow here. Morning. 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 Is there any American boxer that could sell 11,000 tickets in England? There isn't, is there?
With hundreds of groups like Ian's packing London's airports, flights across the pond have served as aerial Hatton fan clubs all week long, packed with supporters eager to enjoy their Hitman holiday in Sin City.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to so get rubbish. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there. They're all living in a disney maker. Love is special. Viva Las Vegas.
Even the Queen's coming. In these guys. That's the Queen of England. Yeah!
It's been a long day. It's about 32 hours. Time to go home. I'll see you boys tomorrow. Don't be late.
By yesterday afternoon's official weigh-in, the British invasion was nearly complete. Caesar's Palace felt more like Wembley Stadium.
Watching a Ricky Hatton fight is like watching a soccer match in England. You know, there's singing all the way through.
There's only one Ricky Hatton! Oh, Ricky Hatton!
The go into full chorus, they go into full song, you know, rolling the songs off the tongue, you know, there's only one Ricky Hatton.
You know the sound? You know the song?
It just makes you feel proud. Halfway across the world, you just see a stream of Brits, you know, with Manchester City shirts on and Ricky Hatton t-shirts on and Ricky Hatton caps on and that, you know. You got to pinch yourself because you're not in your hometown, you're halfway across the world. You know, one thing, no matter how much money you achieve in the ring and how many belts you win, the love of the fans is priceless, you know, and I've got that in abundance.
Back live at ringside at the Thomas & Mack Center, Emmanuel did nothing to diminish Ricky Hatton's drawing power. That several thousand of these same fans came here 5 months ago to eat Mexican food, drink Mexican beer, and watch the admittedly disappointing doubleheader to build this event, on which Hatton was dull but dominant against an unimpressive opponent named Juan Urango. And Castillo all but stank the joint out in the first half of his fight against unknown Canadian Herman Ngojo. Was Castillo, after 62 previous fights, years of sparring with Julio Cesar Chavez, just done? Or was he distracted against a lesser opponent?
Well, first of all, styles make fights. And we have two styles that are clashing tonight. It's like a Mickey Ward and a Arturo Gatti. So regardless of what happened in their last two fights, they are made for each other. I think the last fight, both guys, I think, had problems with the styles. And by his own admission, Castillo admitted that he had underestimated the opponent. I think the long layoff, underestimating the opponent, and the style all made for a bad fight. But tonight, he's got a guy that's coming to match him, a good dance partner, and you're going to see excitement tonight. I think he will fight a great fight tonight. Totally much different than the last fight.
Another contrast between Castillo and Hatton. Max Kellerman Hatton talks about wanting to produce one of those fights that we put on the videotape shelf next to Leonard Hearns or Gatti Ward or Barrera Morales.
Any number of Castillo fights.
Been there, done that for Jose Luis Castillo.
Yeah, it's funny that a consensus has formed around Ricky Hatton. He is the 2-to-1 betting favorite. He's younger and perceived as the fresher of the two. But I just remind you that no one in recent years, after having fought Jose Luis Castillo, has proven that they are clearly the better man. Not Floyd Mayweather Jr., who most observers felt lost to Castillo in their first fight, not Stevie Johnston in 2 fights, not Diego Corrales in 2 fights, not Joel Casamayor. If Hatton does that tonight, he'll have pulled a neat trick. Castillo's been even up with the best of his era, and in my book, this is an even kind of fight, too.
Indeed, I could spend the next several minutes here listing all the ringside experts who will tell you that the battle 2 years ago between Jose Luis Castillo and Diego Corrales the first time around was the greatest prize fight they ever saw. The memory takes on particular poignancy now in the wake of Corrales' recent death.
That fight stands out as a fight that's emblematic of the deepest heart of boxing.
Ali and Frazier, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns. These great fights, these two will be together for history.
It was 2005's Fight of the Year, and it linked Jose Luis Castillo and Diego Corrales forever.
Pero desde el primer round, cuando sonó la campana, nos pusimos en medio del ring y nos acoplamos muy bien en los estilos, que bueno, fue una gran pelea, los 10 rounds que duró, ¿no?
It was violent. It was the best way I can describe it is like being on the beach and when you think you've seen the biggest wave, here comes another one.
I thought that Corrales was finished.
He's in big trouble. I think he's done.
Went down the second time, and I just said, boy, it's over with.
Es que era cuestión de darle un solo golpe nomás, como cuando se lo pegara, si se lo pegaba en el hombro, en el cuerpo, no sé si iba a caer. Y por eso entré muy confiado.
Castillo looking to finish this thing up. Corrales, a desperate fighter, and a right hand from Corrales staggers Castillo.
Y bueno, el desenlace todo el mundo lo sabe.
Here comes Corrales. Unbelievable! 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 I just think we witnessed the greatest fight in the history of boxing.
While Castillo lost the fight, he won the rematch 5 months later. And though the rubber match went by the boards when Castillo failed to make weight, the rivalry was already cemented in history.
Castillo, who never transcended the sport in some way, having that kind of melodramatic fight with Corrales is something he will be reminded of for the rest of his life.
Estoy orgulloso porque yo siempre me han comparado que fui el sparring de Julio Chávez. Yo quería escribir mi propia historia y bueno, con este tipo de peleas creo que la estoy escribiendo.
Tijuana, Mexico, just over the Mexican-American border. Castillo now trains for Ricky Hatton, but he'll always be remembered for the fight he lost to Diego Corrales, an opponent now once again on his mind.
Parece que fue ayer, todavía la recuerdo.
New tonight, a professional boxer is killed in a motorcycle accident on Fort Apache in Hacienda. The victim is lightweight Diego Corrales.
Me quedé sorprendido, no en shock, pero sí me quedé muy sorprendido. Estaba viendo la tele en ESPN y me quedé impactada.
When I heard of it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe, that he was gone.
Longtime boxing referee and minister Richard Steele conducted the memorial service as the boxing world turned out to bury one of its own.
Castillo's body goes limp, and the referee steps in, and I was just, oh my God. And Gladys, my wife, she said, Richard, you referee. His spirit was all through me. I could not help myself that night.
Corrales and Castillo gave me an opportunity to be a part of history. And to be there at his funeral meant a lot to me, just to see him one more time.
Corrales' untimely death came on the 2-year anniversary of his most dramatic win. 2 weeks ago, toxicology tests revealed Corrales was driving drunk. His blood alcohol content 3 times the legal limit in Nevada.
Sí, pues una tristeza que un boxeador grande que le dio muchas satisfacciones a la gente que creía en él haya muerto lamentablemente así, ¿no? Es una lástima, una pérdida muy grande.
He died the way he lived, knowing all the time that he always take chances, knowing that one day something's gonna happen to him. You might be thinking that, but when that time comes, it hurts.
While the 29-year-old Corrales is finally at peace, Castillo fights on, his legacy tied forever to the man they call Chico, a man he'll never forget.
Es difícil de creer que no está con nosotros. Es como un pedazo de la historia de Castillo que se murió.
Diego Chico Corrales' motorcycle accident here in the residential streets of Las Vegas took place on the evening of Monday, May 7, about 48 hours after Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather met in the ring. Just 5 weeks prior to that, Castillo had witnessed the sudden death of his 2 years younger brother, Cesar, due to a brain aneurysm, something that came and seized Cesar and took him away like a thief in the night. Cesar Castillo, among the 8 brothers and sisters Castillo had in this world, was the one who used to carry his championship belts into the ring when Castillo would fight, and the fighter has dedicated his efforts tonight to his deceased little brother. And Emmanuel Stewart, there's great poignancy in the almost loving comments that Castillo offers on behalf of Diego Corrales in that piece, because as he enters the ring tonight, the Corrales family estate, which is suing Castillo for his failure to make weight in fights number 2 and 3 against Diego Corrales, is attempting to attach his purse and prevent him from collecting the money that he would earn for tonight's fight. This is the latest in a series of financial cataclysms which have befallen Castillo ever since that second Corrales fight when we failed to make weight. He was fined $250,000 by the commission. He lost his purse for the third fight. He's been really fighting to try to get over this financial mountain ever since. How much does that weigh on a fighter's mind and affect his preparation?
In addition to that, throwing the fact that being suspended for a year, in addition to fined $250,000, he couldn't even fight to pay it off, and he actually had to borrow money from the promoter, Bob Arum. So the money from his last fight and this fight, for the most part, is gone. And it's a big factor. I think it's going to be a big motivating factor, because not only is he desperate to become really respected by the Mexican fans, because contrary to many, I don't see him going down as a great fighter in the realm of Barrera and the other fighters like Chavez and Morales,
and Marquez and his contemporaries.
Biggest fights that he's fought, still he's came up short. He had 2 fights with Mayweather. Many people thought he won the first one, but still officially he lost. And his most memorable fight with Diego Corrales was the first one. So he still hasn't done nothing that made him a great fighter. So I think he's really fighting to get the accolades of the Mexican people and for money. He's virtually what we would say a broke fighter.
Max Kellerman has a slightly different point of view on Castillo's career, and we'll get to that in a moment. Right now, let's turn our attention to the tail of the tape for Ricky Hatton and Jose Luis Castillo. And here you'll see the 5-year age advantage for Hatton, on which many base his favorite role in the fight. But there's a 2-inch height advantage for Castillo, and surprisingly, a 4-inch arm length advantage for Jose Luis Castillo when measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. They both weighed in at 140. Neither had seemingly any big problem making weight. Castillo has rehydrated all the way up to 153 overnight. Hatton enters the ring at 149. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Ricky Hatton Jose Luis Castillo fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3-knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case it was caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim!
Max Kellerman, you heard what Emmanuel Stewart said in evaluating Jose Luis Castillo's career and how he stacks up against Mexican contemporaries like Barrera and Morales and Marquez. What's your take?
I think Castillo is a throwback in terms of his development as a fighter. By the time he burst into the boxing consciousness with his upset win over Stevie Johnston, he'd lost several fights and learned from those losses. I think he was a truly great lightweight champion, and let me add my name to the list of people who say his fight against Diego Corrales, the greatest fight I've ever seen.
And incidentally, when we asked Castillo about that and whether he thought his fight with Corrales was the greatest he had ever been involved in, he said, no, it's not the #1 fight of my career. That was against Julio Alvarez in 1998.
This one goes to 11.
And where do you get that tape? Where is that DVD? Because that you've got to see.
How do you get better than the greatest fight ever?
He's a high-contact fighter, the kind who quite often have short careers. It's been an extraordinarily long career for Jose Luis Castillo, and now, toward the tail end, it seems, he is fighting to get out of debt. That can either be a back-breaking obstruction or a giant benefit-giving incentive. Now it's taken a little extra time for Ricky Hatton to get his hands wrapped. And now as the arena is darkened, we prepare for a Hatton entrance, which will begin with 45 seconds of Winston Churchill. Blue Moon, theme song of the second of Manchester's 2 professional soccer franchises. Like Floyd Mayweather, Max, he enters wearing a sombrero.
We are in Vegas, right? Are we? I mean, this is unbelievable.
With all the trappings, he's become one of the premier showmen into the sport. And incidentally, just to justify and legitimize the sombrero, walking into the ring behind Hatton, now a member of his entourage, the aforementioned Marco Antonio Barrera. Let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Thomas and Mack Center, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Good evening and welcome to the main event, presented by Arthur Palullo's Banner Promotions and Dennis Hobson's Fight Academy, along with Caesar's Palace and Wynn Las Vegas. Sponsored by Nemiroff and brought to you in association with Top Rank Incorporated. This contest is 12 rounds of boxing for the IBO Light Welterweight Championship of the World. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission Chairman Dr. Tony Alamo, Executive Director Keith Kaiser, IBO President Ed Levine. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout on the 10-point system will be Adelaide Bird, Dwayne Ford, and Clark Sammartino. And inside the ring, working for the 162nd time in a world title bout, referee Joe Cortez. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black with gold, official weight 140 pounds. His professional record, 55 victories, including 47 knockouts, with 7 defeats and 1 draw. Damas y caballeros de Mexicali, Mexico, the challenger, the former 2-time lightweight champion of the world, Jose Luis El Temible Castillo. And across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue with silver and black, official weight also 140 pounds. A perfect professional record consisting of 42 bouts, 42 victories, including 30 knockouts. From Manchester, England, the former undisputed light welterweight world champion, the former WBA welterweight champion, and the reigning defending undefeated IBO light welterweight champion of the world, Ricky Hitman Hatton.
All right, gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. Ya vi la regla del camerino. I expect a good, clean fight. Quiero una pelea limpia. Obey my commands at all time. Punches here are good. This is good. Punches here, this is a little high. The punches here are good. Give me a good, clean fight. Remember, guys, I'm fair, but I'm firm. Touch your belt.
Gotti Ward, Pereira Morales, Corrales Castillo, Castillo Hatton.
Both men have promised not to take a backward step. Hatton has been quite specific in saying, I don't believe he can fight going backward. I am going to back him up. Already you see the possible implications of that as they get into a phone booth stance here at the beginning of the fight. And referee Joe Cortez rules a slip rather than a knockdown as Castillo comes out of a clinch and has to put his gloves on the canvas to remain upright.
I want you to hold it, okay? Let's go.
The one thing that I noticed right away is the hand speed of Ricky. It seems to be much more faster and more accurate and pinpoint compared to Castillo. But I think he's making a mistake to keep going into those clinches directly. It looked like he doesn't even have any Vaseline on his face or anything coming into the fight. His face and his body looks very dry.
And what are the implications of that, Emmanuel?
I think he didn't have enough time to get warmed up properly.
And by that, we refer to the fact that his brother Matthew Hatton fought on the undercard, fought in the fight preceding this one, and therefore some members of Hatton's corner, including his chief second, were involved with his brother while he was fighting. They got back to the dressing room late and had to hurry through the process of wrapping his hands and putting on his gloves.
Yes, but also I'm looking at Hatton's got faster hands, but they're going into collision. I think he should move forward and then maybe take a half a step back.
And you saw referee Joe Cortez already warning both fighters about excessive clinching.
But the hand speed of Hatton is just too much.
Castillo away from him.
But he smothered his work. That's the problem is he's throwing punches and then he smothered him as soon as he lands a punch.
It was Castillo who promised uppercuts. It's Hatton who lands 3 straight uppercuts to feature this particular exchange.
The speed difference. Castillo looks like an old fighter.
I think Hatton's plan is to get inside Castillo's punching power and smother. I think he's more concerned with smothering Castillo's punches than taking steam off his own.
What he said, he definitely wants to try to force Castillo to go back.
The last 5 rounds of Hatton's fight against Juan Urango in January became a clinching festival. And already we see signs that this could be a clinching festival too.
But both guys expressed that each one felt they were physically stronger than the other also.
Castillo misses with a left hook after Hatton landed his. Castillo misses with an uppercut after Hatton landed his. Hatton has certainly been the more accurate puncher in the early going. Quicker, more able to get off, more able to land inside.
He should keep the fight at more of a distance. He's getting too close because he can land the punch, especially with the short left hand shots, and catch his guy more careful, more cleanly than he can by smothering his work.
The difference in quickness readily apparent. Castillo seemingly has to gather himself to throw his punches. Hatton gets off with a blast.
Smith. How'd you feel him? Come on, we gotta work the uppercut short. Gotta work the uppercut short. Bring it in on the inside. He's moving on you. You gotta use that uppercut. A square. Come in with the uppercut. Uppercut.
Go down at touch. Get on that jab and start setting him up. You know what I mean? Don't go like that. Just push me. Change that. Change. I don't want that again. Yeah? It's anybody's fucking fight. Everyone's going to get cut and everyone's going to get chinned. You steady him down. You're quickest to steady him down.
Here you see Ricky landing short left hand punch here, and just physically his balance, his coordination is just so much superior than Castillo that it don't look like Castillo's going to be able to be a strong factor as the fight goes on.
But Castillo got off to an extremely slow start against Herman Mancunian back in January, and then was able to crank it up in the last 6 rounds and pull out a victory which looked unlikely midway through the fight. Hatton lands a quick left hook inside. CompuBox numbers in round 1. Hatton was 20 out of 58. Castillo only 10 of 44.
Biggest concern I'd have if I was in the corner of Ricky Hatton with him getting cut, possibly because of the way their heads are colliding.
And there's already a red spot outside the right eye of Hatton, just as Castillo's nose showed signs of bleeding between rounds. Castillo's landed 2 uppercuts in this round, starting to get his offense going a little bit. Attempts a left hook to the body there. It's his #1 weapon when he can get it going in rhythm.
The biggest concern I would have in Hatton's corner is that this is no surprise. The anticipation was that Hatton would start fast. The question is, how will he finish, given how he's looked in the latter half of the last 2 fights and how Castillo has traditionally performed well down the stretch.
But it looks like the speed difference is so much that I don't think that's going to be a big factor tonight. I mean, Castillo's just entirely too slow. And Ricky should keep it at a distance where he can take advantage of his faster foot speed and hand speed.
Let's go.
Now Castillo with the longer arms lands a couple jabs. Goes back to that uppercut inside. Another uppercut inside for Castillo, starting to find more of a rhythm. It's fascinating. Jose Luis Castillo has an image of being almost exclusively an inside fighter, Emmanuel, but in his fights against Diego Corrales, he mastered the longer arm Corrales from outside.
Yeah, Corrales, even though he was tall, he really had very good short compact punches. In fact, he'd rather fight in close than to fight at a distance.
Now Hatton begins to show some of the rambunctiousness and sturdy dynamism inside that typified his big effort against Costa Zoo.
But he's making the fight not only become more closer, but also more difficult because of his leaning in instead of fighting at a distance.
Castillo has always used timing, even from long range, to offset his opponent's speed, and timing is the answer to speed. If there is an answer to speed.
Yeah, that's when he was younger. He looks like an old man to me tonight. I don't care what he's did in the past. He just doesn't like he does. His legs is gone.
And he's getting hit repeatedly with a left hook.
Yeah, but Ricky still isn't making him use his legs as much as he should.
Big left hook by Ricky Hatton. Hatton, incidentally, has the equivalent of his own marching band in the stands behind him, and they will be stimulating songs and chants in Hatton's favor throughout the night. When the crowd responds, usually it will be for Ricky's big moment. This is a Hatton crowd.
And it's a Hatton fight so far.
Coming up July 7, Vladimir Klitschko against Layman Brewster. The second time around, you'll recall that Brewster got a knockout victory under unusual circumstances against Klitschko here in Las Vegas a couple years ago. Now Vladimir gets to reverse that, and the fight will air at 5 Eastern time, and then in its entirety that same night at 10:30. 1 week later, July 14. Welterweight triple header headlined by Antonio Margarito's defense of his title against undefeated Paul Williams. Also that night, Kermit Cintron puts his portion of the title on the line against Walter Matisse. And Arturo Gatti returns to the ring, taking on Alfonso Gomez of Contender fame. Loaded welterweight division, triple header on July 14. Power punches through the second round. Hatton 38 out of 111, doubling Castillo more or less. Castillo is 18 out of 67. Ricky Hatton throwing more punches, throwing more quickly. The more effective fighter in the first 2 rounds.
All right, break on. Let's go. Stop. Let's go. Sube los golpes. I want to hold against angles, that's one thing. No, come on, get those outs out. No want to get those outs out. Get those outs out, get him out. You know,
Castillo's doing very well right now because Hatton is going right to the inside and not making Castillo use his legs and fighting in close like that. Castillo's beginning to start to find his range, starting to land a lot of punches.
They're also mauling on the inside, and Cortez is warning them, but they're throwing punches. There's no real break in the action. There's steady flow of punches from both guys.
Get him out.
Or sometimes they'll clinch on one side while throwing punches on the other. Both fighters have built a better rhythm and tempo in the first half of this round than was the case in the first 2 rounds.
And Cortez isn't warning them, he's exhorting them to throw punches, but I think they are throwing punches.
Now, the way they're fighting in close, Castillo may start to find in the range and landing his body shots in there, because even though Hatton considers himself a body puncher, he's nowhere near the body puncher of Castillo. He's a much better body puncher.
Well, Hatton acknowledged that he needed to do more work to prepare for a body attack after seemingly having been hurt by Juan Urango's body punches in the 5th round of the last fight, one factor which seemed to slow him down in the second half of the fight. If you have trouble taking it to the body, Logic tells you you're going to have trouble against Jose Luis Castillo. Castillo still tends to regard himself as the #1 body puncher in the sport, although fans of Miguel Cotto would say otherwise at this point.
And Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.'s got to be thrown in that picture, too.
Let me just say otherwise at this point.
Oh, there's a terrific left hook to the body by Ricky Hatton, and it sets up an uppercut upstairs, and another right uppercut for which Castillo feels a need immediately to retaliate. Good left hook by Hatton, pleasing the crowd with sharp action in round 3.
How are you feeling? Good. Where's the water? Come on, you gotta move up the pace, move up the pace. He's hitting legally. Bend your waist, move so he doesn't hit you.
Yeah, you feel okay? You're strong? Strong, yes, yeah. Well, use your balance inside. You can take a little skill inside. Right, yeah, I do. Well, nudging, use your balance inside, yeah? And finish on jump.
CompuBox numbers in round 3, best round of the fight. Ricky Hatton landing 23 out of 54. Jose Luis Castillo 21 out of 62. That round probably a harbinger of what we're going to see through the middle portion of the fight. Harold, how do you score it so far?
Okay, Jim, 30-27, 3 rounds to nothing for hook and hold Ricky Hatton. Jim, I gotta tell you something. Jose Luis Castillo's gotta catch this guy before he comes in and ties him up like he did there. Hatton gets off 2-3 good hooks, and then he grabs him. See, right there. This guy hits him 2 times, grabs him. And he's been doing it the whole fight. He gets away with it. Castillo's gotta catch him on the way in, or you're gonna see a shutout. 3-0 for Ricky Hatton.
Get him out, let's go. Get him out of there.
So, Harold, it sounds as though you're attributing all the holding to Hatton.
Jim, to tell you the truth, 90% of it is Hatton. There's no question. He's good at it. He uses his strength to shove Castillo back, but he's holding him a left. There's no question. Look, right there. Hatton's got him with the left hand.
Castillo put his left arm over the back of Hatton's neck.
I agree with Harold. I think Hatton is the one initiating the clinch, whether or not Castillo's playing ball.
But the thing is, Hatton seems to be strictly intent on just bullying Castillo around and not boxing him at a distance. He's punching, and as soon as he lands a punch, he starts pushing him with his shoulders, clinching him, whatever. But he's trying to make it a physical fight to push Castillo back into the ropes.
Is this the Hatton who beat Costa-Tzu?
Somewhat, yes. It's very similar, but Costa-Tzu is a different type fighter. Costa-Tzu becomes very unorganized very easily if you crowd him, because he likes to have space to fight like most of the European fighters, which is what he was as an amateur.
Joe Cortez is deducting a point from Castillo for low blows.
Did you guys see a warning?
I did not.
Seems like a quick deduction.
Get him out of there.
Perhaps there was a warning in round 2 during a discussion that took place among all 3 of the principals in the ring at that time. One way or another, no protest from Castillo as a point is deducted from him. And now, if Harold Letterman's scorecard is in line with those of the official scorers, Castillo's got an uphill fight on his hands.
What did I say about body punching that Hatton didn't punch as good as Castillo?
Well, maybe Castillo doesn't take him as well as Hatton.
Yes,
This has been ruled a knockdown.
It was a knockdown.
As Castillo went to, and he stays on the canvas, and this fight is over. The perfect left hook to the liver ends the fight.
I think those who said going into this fight that Castillo was shot, they look pretty smart right now.
Absolutely. The way Jose Luis Castillo sat that one out, shocking to many at ringside.
Yeah. He looked like a shot fighter from the beginning.
Not the same guy who fought Diego Corrales in back-to-back fights, and maybe as a result of those fights, he's not the same guy.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I saw the first 10 seconds how bad he looked.
So maybe the first 6 rounds against Ngoju meant, Emmanuel, that he was done.
Yep.
And Hatton won't get much credit for that victory because of the way Castillo looked.
Yeah, but he did a good job, though.
Let's take a look at the finish once again. We've seen a lot of knockouts recently on body shots. Here's another one.
Right under the elbow. And he didn't see that. He wasn't expecting it. He thought that he was coming to the head.
I thought for a moment he was trying to convince Cortez he had been hit low. But no, it was the perfect liver shot.
Yep.
One more look at Ricky Hatton's perfect location of the left hook under the right arm.
And that's unusual to see Mexican fighters, because in training, all the time, that's their favorite punches, is exchanging left hooks to the body.
This is what Mexican fighters have been doing to their opponents for decades.
I'm very surprised to see a Mexican fighter get knocked out with a body punch. It's unusual.
So a 4th round knockout victory for Ricky Hatton over Jose Luis Castillo becomes the gaudiest element of the Hatton resume for the moment.
They're singing Christmas songs in June, but it is Christmas to them.
Let's go to Michael Buffer for the particulars on the Hatton KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Joe Cortez reaches the count of 10. The official time, 2 minutes, 16 seconds, round number 4. The winner by knockout victory, still undefeated, still the IBO light welterweight champion of the world from Manchester, England, Ricky Hitman Hatton.
He wanted to provide spectacle in this, the 3rd fight of his American campaign. Disappointed in his performance against Luis Colazo in Boston last year. Disappointed in his performance against Juan Urango in Las Vegas earlier this year. Logic tells you this will not disappoint Ricky Hatton. 81 out of 220 in overall CompuBox numbers against 58 of 192 for Castillo. A 7% edge in connect percentage. At the end of the day, these numbers do not communicate the degree to which Hatton was the sharper, more accurate puncher in the fight. Landing 29 more power punches, throwing 50 more, generally getting his way against Castillo. And now let's go to Max Kellerman with the winner.
Congratulations, Ricky, for defending your one and only true lineal junior welterweight championship of the world tonight. Evaluate your performance.
To be honest, I really wanted to put a good performance on. I felt I've had 2 fights in the United States now, and I don't think I was at my best. I think tonight I was a bit more at my best. I'm known for me exciting, and I don't think I've been Mr. Excitement in my last 2 fights, but I was tonight, I think.
How is it that you seem to save your best performances for your biggest fights against your toughest opposition?
Well, I mean, you train hard for every single fight, but I think any top-line fighter will tell you, the bigger you test, you raise your game, you raise your performance. I mean, the best 2 names on my professional record, I think, are Costa and Jose Luis Castillo, and those have been my best performances, so I think that speaks volumes.
Ricky, here's the knockout. Take a look on the body shot.
Yeah, I felt very, very strong inside, I was just trying to keep my head away from I just touched him to the head. He was crossing his elbows over, a little bit Archie Moore type style, and I just touched him to the head, slipped round and found the gap behind the elbows, and but from the very first bell, I felt stronger than him, so that was me key, because I felt so strong, keep it on him and hopefully break him,
You have a reputation as a tremendous body puncher, but how much of this knockout do you attribute to yourself, and how much to Diego Corrales and the various other wars Castillo's been in throughout his career?
Well, as soon as the fight was mentioned against a great fighter like Jose Luis Castillo, I was hugely excited about the fight. And obviously, to hear the sad news of Diego Corrales, passing away, I think, I like to think I'm an exciting fighter. But me and Diego were out of the same mold. We were all action, and I mean, boxing is a sadder sport without Diego Corrales in it. And I'd just like to dedicate that performance not only to Diego, to his lovely wife Michelle, who's here this evening. I hope he sat upstairs very proud and enjoyed that. God bless you, Michelle.
Ricky, but there will be those who say that Castillo, as a result of the fight with Corrales and the various other wars he's been in, was diminished and you weren't fighting a prime Castillo. How do you respond to that?
Well, you know, well, I don't know, you know, I trained for the best Jose Luis Castillo, and, you know, I think that shows in the performance. But I don't know what it is lately. I'm man enough to hold my hands up and say last time and last two performances I was a bit under par. I'd like to think I'd be able to get a bit of a pat in the back for that one.
Indeed. Well, we know how your fans feel about the performance. You've now done something in this fight that Floyd Mayweather failed to accomplish against Castillo in his first fight. Beat him convincingly and do it in a fan-friendly, exciting fashion. Do you have anything to say to Floyd Mayweather or about a potential fight with Floyd Mayweather?
Well, you know, this fight tonight, what round was it? Round 4. I think you saw more action in these 4 rounds than you've shown value for money in Floyd's whole career. I'll just leave it at that.
Congratulations, Ricky. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Max. This, incidentally, is a momentary tribute to the fact that the Lampley family tree, Emmanuel, originated in Manchester, England, 7 centuries ago. So, for at least a moment, I get to wear the Ricky Hatton muffler. He didn't like his first trip up to welterweight last year against Luis Collazo. He decided to go back down to 140. Now he cements his identity again as the number 140-pound fighter in the world, but that's not a loaded weight class. Welterweight is where all the action is. Cotto, Margarito, Williams, and of course the big name that Max mentioned is Floyd Mayweather. Could Ricky go back to welterweight and be more comfortable this time?
He could, but I think he's a superstar in the junior welterweight where he seems to fit comfortable. He got everything that he looked for tonight. He got the great victory, the excitement. He is a true superstar now. Maybe one of the biggest attractions in boxing today. I was very impressed with him tonight. And it is interesting that his 2 biggest and greatest victories were against his biggest and most notable names, which is great. Costa Azul and Castillo was the biggest names he's ever fought, and those were his 2 greatest victories. So today what he did, I mean, he's won everybody over, including me.
Yeah, but he's going to have to search long and hard to find another name like that in the 140-pound weight class.
Yeah, but he'll draw with whoever he fights to a certain degree because of the fans.
If he moves up 7 more pounds, there's a boatload of opponents like that, Max. He's got to go to welterweight again, doesn't he?
It looks that way. Let me just say, it's unfair to now play revisionist historian, but I think I'm gonna. Going into this fight just a few minutes ago, I said, this is an even kind of fight. Castillo's a great fighter. He's never been dominated. Wow, would it be something if Ricky Hatton dominated him in an exciting fight, which is exactly what Ricky Hatton did. It seems unfair to take a little credit away, but here it goes. Castillo did look like a shot fighter tonight, like he was showing up to kind of see what this young guy had, and when he saw what he had, he thought, it's too much for me, and packed it in on a body shot.
Yeah, and incidentally, that was quite a moment when Ricky made his little tribute to Diego Corrales in the ring following the fight. That was indeed Diego's wife who came up and gave him an embrace. So Hatton once again showed, incidentally, that he has the instinct of a politician and the timing of a politician as well.
Yeah, he has an earnest quality about him, and he fights in that way usually, or at least when he does, it's when he's at his best. And that kind of charm, that kind of boy next door charm has won over his fans as much as his fighting style.
Hey, and if you thought the crowd in Madison Square Garden 2 weeks ago for Cotto versus Judo was off the board, this one was like being at the Texas-Oklahoma game. So thanks very much for being with us once again. We want to remind you that July 7, Vladimir Klitschko defends his heavyweight championship against Lehman Brewster, who knocked Vladimir out in 2004. Klitschko-Brewster will air live from Cologne, Germany at 5 p.m. Eastern Time and re-air in its entirety that same night at 10:30. 1 week later, July 14, it's a welterweight triple header headlined by Antonio Margarito's defense of his portion of the title against undefeated Paul Williams. Also that night, Kermit Cintron puts his slice of the title on the line against Walter Matisse. And Arturo Gatti returns to the ring, taking on Alfonso Gomez from The Contender. Immediately following that July 14 tripleheader, stick around for Countdown to Hopkins' Right, a half-hour documentary-style look at both fighters as they prepare for their upcoming showdown. July 21 on HBO pay-per-view. Bernard Hopkins steps into the ring for the first time since his destruction of Antonio Tarver to take on Winky Wright in a matchup of two of the sport's best technicians. And July 28, Boxing After Dark returns with a face-off of former champions when Carlos Baldemir meets Vernon Forrest. For all that and more, log on to HBO.com. Next on HBO, it's Entourage, followed by John from Cincinnati on the East Coast and the premiere of The Sentinel on the West Coast. And now for our entire HBO crew, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Las Vegas, Nevada.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.